Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the NGO CSW Youth Leaders and Young Professionals June monthly meeting. We are going to start discussing CSW71, how to advocate and getting started in your advocacy for CSW71. We know it is very early, but these things tend to happen early, and it's a good idea to get started. Early as the process goes on. So welcome. Thank you so much. Thanks, Nesrin, for putting your greetings in the chat. If people want to go ahead and introduce themselves in the chat, let us know where you're joining from. While we kind of tee up our program for today, we're really lucky to be joined by the co-chairs of NGO CSW. You'll be hearing from Rosa in just a moment. And we're also joined by our advocacy and research group team today as well. Both of the co-chairs are here. So the Youth Leaders and Young Professionals program is just one of the kind of working groups of NGO CSW. Another one that's very active is our advocacy and research group. So what we're really wanting to do is introduce you kind of to the other opportunities that are available through NGO CSW, one of those being the ARG team. So you'll be hearing from them soon as well. So really excited to have you here and to kind of inform you about some of those opportunities as well as ways to start advocating and getting ready for CSW 71. So I'm Emily Van Vleck. I'm one of the co-chairs for the YLYP group and joined by Mads, my fellow co-chair. So Mads, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thanks for the introduction. I'm really excited about today's program. It's our last meeting before the CSW, NGO CSW's annual summer break. And we have some exciting news to share. We're kind of switching things up a little bit for the next CSW to where we are having some former Global Youth Fellows come in and join us in our programming to make the YLYPs more interactive and more compelling. You'll probably see some changes the next few months coming in from the YLYP programming. And we hope that these changes will help make this community more interactive and just more informational. So thank you again for being here. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Just give me one moment. Okay. Okay, so, all right, today we're talking about youth at the table. Emily, if you want to go ahead and share that poll, that would be amazing. We have a quick poll for you just to see who's here. Who plans to attend CSW 71? So I know it's pretty early, but we'd like to just see if anyone here is planning to attend or not, attend virtually.
It looks like we have a lot of in-person attendees, which is fantastic. We're really looking forward to seeing you there. Some undecided, some virtually. Yeah, that's great. We had our very first YLYP in-person mixer last year at this for CSW 70. So looking forward to growing on that and seeing some of you in person, a lot of you in person, actually, most of you. So yeah, sounds great. Looking forward to that.
Great. Well, we have a great program for those who are attending in person and virtually. And if you're undecided, I'm hoping that this can maybe sway you into, joining at least some virtual events during the CSW. So for CSW 71, we're going to first start by talking about the CSW 71 priority and review themes. Luckily, we have our co-chair, Rosa Lizarde, to kind of walk us through what these themes actually mean in regards to the CSW. So Rosa, I'll go ahead and give you the floor.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Emily. And thank you all for being here. Thanks to the YLYP community. I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm going to be focusing my remarks primarily on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, because as it comes up within the CSW theme, it's always good to get a bit of a background check on it. So um, I will take questions afterwards if you have any in the chat. I can't really present and check the chat at the same time. So I will do that at the end. And if I don't do it during my presentation, I will certainly do it in the chat. So the 2030 agenda theme for the CSW, the prime thing, which I think it is really great because the 2030 agenda, that means that we have an agenda that is going to expire in about 3.5 years. So integrating all aspects of gender equality and the empowerment of women within this agenda is quite important. And as a matter of fact, women, youth played a major role in the development of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, but also overall the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So, as you may know, it was adopted in 2015. It's a shared global blueprint aimed at ending poverty, reducing inequalities, protecting the planet, and ensuring prosperity for all by 2030. So don't hold your breath on that if that's going to be completed, but it takes all our work. At the core are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And all nations have pledged to achieve these goals, unlike other agreements, um, to achieve their goals and the respective targets. Now, the preamble of the 2030 Agenda focuses on people, the planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. The people, we know it's us, but primarily highlighted is ending poverty and hunger in all their forms and dimensions, and to ensure that all human beings can fulfill their potential in dignity and equality and in a healthy environment. The planet, we are determined to protect the planet from degradation, including through sustainable consumption and production, sustainably managing its natural resources, and taking urgent action on climate change to support the needs of present and future generations. On prosperity, we are determined to ensure that all human beings can enjoy prosperous and fulfilling lives, and that economic, social, and technological progress occurs in harmony with nature. Under peace, we are determined to foster peace, just, and inclusive societies which are free from fear and violence. There can be no sustainable development without peace, and no peace without sustainable development. We've heard that catchphrase many times, and it's something that continues to be true and that we use also. There can be no um, sustainable development without gender equality, and we need gender equality to achieve that. And partnership. Partnership is one of the goals, the 17th goal that was added to ensure that member states, governments, civil society, all citizens of the world are working together. And this is one of the unique aspects of the 2030 agenda. Um, Highlighting characteristics, it's universal application. Unlike other frameworks, the 2030 agenda applies to all countries, both developing and developed. And there's a system for review with the through the annual high-level political forum, which I'll get into in more detail in a bit. Also, it's an integrated framework. The goals are indivisible. Our individual progress in one area heavily depends on progress in others. For example, achieving gender equality, advancing gender equality naturally improves economic growth and reduces poverty. And then the aspect of no one left behind. I think that that's also another phrase that people have heard, maybe one too many times. It may have lost a little bit of its meaning, but with this agenda, it was really a guiding principle, committing to eradicating extreme poverty for all, everywhere. So again, this meaning of the 2030 agenda and this SDGs extends beyond government policies and calls for everyone, citizens, civil society, the private sector, governments to all contribute together in this interconnected vision. And just a little bit of background on the history for the SDGs. I think some of you might know be familiar with the Millennium Development Goals, which were 10 goals that came prior to the SDGs from 2000 to 2010. I know some of you were maybe crawling around very young or a glimmer in someone's eye at that point. But the Millennium Development Goals were developed, what we heard afterwards, by a group of men, primarily suits, in the basement of the UN without much consultation. Because of that, the consultation for the SDGs became all inclusive. There was a post 2015 process, which meant that everyone who wanted to consult in whatever way they wanted to, youth could consult, women could consult, they could do it online, they can do it regionally, they can do it nationally. It was all feeding into the development of the SDGs. And the reason why some people have asked why there are 17 SDGs as opposed to just 10 is because many of us pushed for the inclusion of other priorities, other goals within the SDGs, and I'll go through them right now very quickly. That couldn't be neatly packaged into just 10, which is what some countries wanted. They wanted to be able to have like a marketing package, like the MDGs 10, and we're just going to sell it to our citizenry. This is why we're investing in sustainable development. But civil society really pushed for the full agenda. And so you've probably know many of these SDGs. One is ending poverty in all its form everywhere. Two, ending hunger, achieving food security and improve nutrition. Three, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all. Four, someone I think I put something there, ensure inclusive and equitable education. Five, we know, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Six, clean water and sanitation. Seven, affordable and clean energy. Eight, decent work and economic growth. Nine, industry innovation and infrastructure. In other words, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. 10, reduce inequalities. 11, and see, this is when we get to that extended priority list, make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. 14 is about life below water, conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas, and marine resources. 15 is about life on land, protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems. 16 is on peace, justice, and strong institutions. And the 17th is partnerships for the goals, strengthen the means of implementation, and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. These sustainable development goals are reviewed every year at the high level political forum, which this year happens from the 7th to the 15th. This year, the review will be on SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, 7, affordable and clean energy, 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, 11, sustainable cities and communities, and 17, partnerships for the goals. I think my time is up. So let me just put some links in the chat for folks to explore further the SDGs, and I'll take questions. I'll look at some questions and answer in the chat if I'm not allowed to answer any here. So thank you very much. I hope this was helpful.
Thank you so much, Rosa. And speaking of the priority and review themes, something that I always say is start thinking ahead to potential parallel events. And so looking at these review themes, maybe you're in an organization that is directly, works on one of these SDGs, or maybe personally you're really interested in one of these SDGs. The parallel events for the NGO CSW are run by, depending on either in person or virtual, are run by organizations, CSOs and NGOs, who are interested in sharing and providing information during the CSW. So, to have an in-person event, you must have a co-sponsor. Two organizations will run the event on either the priority or review theme of the CSW. And then same applies for the virtual event, except the co-sponsor aspect of it does not apply. So it only has to be one organization. So these applications will be out likely the end of October, early November. We're shooting for a little bit earlier this upcoming year. And so just start thinking about some of the things that you might want to present on or something that your organization can contribute. And if you're not in an organization, maybe looking at different organizations that you can become a part of to start advocating. So I will go ahead and pass it over to our advocacy and research group team. I think Ivy is here and Marlene McLean is here, both co-chairs of the ARG committee. So Ivy, I'll go ahead and pass it to you to kind of walk us through what the ARG is and how it has to do with the CSW negotiations.
Sure. And I'm Marlene's with me too, so I guess we'll just jointly present. And you can fill in, Marlene, or pick up where I leave off. Or if you wanted to start even, that would be okay too. But
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
okay. So I'm Ivy Cook, and I am based in New York. I'm the UN representative for Soka Gakkai International, and I'm also the former co-chair of the NGO committee on the status of women in New York. So this is like my 13th, 14th year. So I'm pretty familiar now with the CSW process and what the committee does. And the advocacy and research group was created, actually, it was less than 10 years ago or so, I would say 8 or so years ago. There have been we found that it was really needed that the advocacy from a wider, like, civil society collective voice be heard at the CSW, since the commission only hears from the ECOSOC accredited NGOs. And because the committee has a wide constituencies which range from individuals, even people who come from private sector participate in CSW, as well as those, who work full-time on women and girls' human rights. And so we really have a very wide spectrum of constituents who are part of the committee and who are involved in the NGO forum, because it's something that's accessible, open, free to anyone, even if you're coming off the street. Actually, you could join any of the events that are happening. And so the advocacy and research group basically looks at the priority theme and the review theme, but mainly focusing on the priority theme for the year. And this process, the pyramid you see here, is the process leading to the agreed conclusions, which is the outcome document of CSW. I'm sure among this group, there's lots of experts, so I don't have to go into detail about it, but I'm just doing this, for not knowing who the audience is. So I'm sorry if it's already a repeat of information for you, but basically the outcome document is what what the whole CSW is trying to come out of the session. Is the result of the session is supposed to be an outcome document, and there's a whole process before to get to that point. And so governments already start what's called a zero draft, but prior to that, UN Women, who is the secretariat, holds expert group meetings. This year it might be as soon as this month or next month. They will hold these meetings with experts on the priority review, all of those themes coming up. And they will really give kind of a real general scope of, what should be the priorities and all of this. Now, this feeds into what is the Secretary General's report. And member states, governments look at this report, and then they start to compose what's the Secretariat actually technically put together a zero draft together with the co-facilitators, and then they start to negotiate words and what they want to take in or out, and that's months long process. And usually how it has happened is the session, you go into the session, you have a zero draft, and in the 2 weeks of CSW, they finalize it. There's already other iterations. Actually, it's not a zero draft anymore during the session. It's already maybe Rev 1, 2, whatever. And then they go into hopefully agreed conclusions by the end of CSW. This year was different. This year, all negotiations, everything happened beforehand. And so day one of CSW, they actually adopted the agreed conclusions. Thankfully, they did adopt it, even though one of the member states, whatever. And so the advocacy and research group wants to inform before the zero draft, is created, or during the zero draft, I should say, that we have collected based on our research and all the information we've gathered, the data that we're aware of, and then we draft our recommendations. We try to keep it pretty short, concise, and not go on with the whole laundry list. And so usually it's 10 or less points that we're trying to, key recommendations that we give. And then we create these briefs, and also with citations. And then it's shared with all member states, including UN Women as well, gets copies of this. And there's a small group that has been, the ARG is comprised of a small group representing various regions around the world. It's a global group of experts. And we really want to make an effort this year to partner with, and we've talked with Emily and Mads, Marlene and I, we really want a joint collaboration so that there are more of you who actually can participate in the ARG. It's it's a small group. And so basically it's really like, you show up with a commitment that you're really gonna, take part and work on this. But it's quite exciting because you're working alongside other experts on developing these recommendations. So anything else? I don't, Marlene, I think I covered it, but I don't know if I
No,
missed
that
something.
was good. I have nothing to add. Just that we welcome YLYP. We need new voices. We need fresh perspectives, and we'd love to work with you.
Thank you both so much for that. And there's already interest in the chat. Marlene, Ivy, could you tell us how is it possible to join ARG? Do you know have the next meeting date? Can they reach out to you?
I don't have the next meeting date in front of me, but we'll get it together and put it in the chat.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you to the ARG. Lots of exciting things. So, as we discussed at the beginning of this meeting, we really want to give you opportunities to get engaged, get involved, and boost up your advocacy, be more involved in the process. So, speaking of that, Mads is going to walk us through some of the tools that NGO CSW has to advocate.
Yes, thank you so much, Ivy, Marlene, Emily. I think that was a great overview. So some of the things that we have from CSW 70 can actually help us plan for CSW 71. So I want to take a moment to kind of highlight something that we have used throughout many, many years at NGO CSW that our interns actually put together to create kind of a youth-focused advocacy toolkit. And so the NGO CSW New York Advocacy Toolkit is a guide to advocacy at the CSW after and beforehand. So it kind of gives you an intro on the UN, what the CSW is in comparison to the NGO CSW forum, and what advocacy may look like during the forum, whether that is in the United Nations or at the NGO CSW forum. Emily, if you don't mind, to put it in the chat, the link there.
I think
That
I
would be great.
did get it in the
Great.
chat.
Perfect. I can't see the chat since I am presenting. So thank you so much. One thing that we did differently this year is we added ways to digitally advocate on social media platforms and other like social platforms. And so since COVID kind of changed things to be more online, more virtual, we wanted to take a moment to kind of explore the different ways of advocacy and the different steps it takes to advocate digitally. So here I have 5 small key steps that will help digital advocacy, especially, as Gen Z, I see a lot of digital advocacy on my social media platforms, whether for a specific organization or for a specific cause. So it's important to kind of go in and define your goals before you decide, hey, I want to advocate on Instagram or Snapchat or wherever you're deciding to post. So some key things to start with is defining goals as to who are you reaching out to, who is your audience, what are you trying to accomplish here, and what do you want people to do about this? Is there a call to action? Is this just a general information post? So, looking at different platforms is then your next step. What audience do you want to, cater to? Each platform has a different audience. You can kind of go in, do some research, but it's important to identify the different platforms that you want to post on to share this message. And so, yeah, next you want to create a design that will be readable. You want to make it so that you can easily put your main point across clearly and quickly, and then make sure that it is under your branding, whether you are individually doing your own branding or with your organization. Another thing that might be important is writing your copy. So this includes writing like a script that you would like to say in, say, like a TikTok video or an Instagram reel. and making sure that your tone and length and variability during the video attracts people's attention. So how do you want this message to sound? How long do you want it to be? And do you want to make it approachable to a large audience? This is important to kind of look at. So making a script or, going in and editing your post information is important. And then finally, it's important to stay engaged with your audience. So whether you're just posting or just one post, reply to the comments, DMs, repost other posts that might have similar agendas, and follow people or organizations with a similar focus. So, additional considerations include automation, design resources, types of content, and education. So, here I have these, and I think I'm going to share this. What's it called? This presentation so that you have these links. But for automation, content calendars and schedulers, if you want this content to go through a long period of time, I recommend scheduling your posts. So some popular options includes Ladder, Hootsuite, and Buffer. There's free and paid options. It may be something to look into, especially if you're in a newer organization or want to bring in a new perspective in your current organization. I think that this automation really does help when it comes to mass posting. Design resources, especially Canva or Microsoft tools, is very helpful. Most of these most of these websites have free courses and tutorials that will help you kind of look through the different options for your posts, or if you want to add a cool like effect to it, you can do that, and there's plenty of free resources online. Um, so then the types of content also matters. Are you doing videos, photos, text-based posts? So making sure that your audience will be attracted to whatever you post. So for example, Instagram and TikTok reaches a lot of people, especially if you want to go more in depth in information. Maybe doing videos is more helpful in targeting these types of audiences. While photos and flyers are good for events and promotional materials, text-based posts are effective when sharing an opinion or breaking down complex ideas, starting conversations, or calls to action. Finally, education is really important in advocacy. It's kind of the base of what you are advocating for. It's important to continue to educate yourself, stay updated on latest changes, trends, and more. There's also a linked guide from Medium, which is a great place to start with resources. Social Media Today is a great website to check for up-to-date information on all the latest updates and happenings with social media. As you all know, social media is constantly moving, which makes it a great place to advocate. There's constantly new ideas being shared and new opinions being shared, and it's a great way to kind of hop on a train, active movement, and share your ideas. So that's just a few things that are in the advocacy toolkit. I think it goes way more deeper into some of this digital advocacy, how to plan it out, and some things to consider beforehand. But I will go ahead and pass it over to Emily, who will kind of walk us through other ways to advocate and kind of our general discussion question for the program.
Thank you, Mads. Yes, other ways to advocate. As we've kind of been discussing in the chat, right? Joining coalitions and larger groups. Advocacy is really impactful when you're doing it in your community, but you can amplify it by joining other groups. like the YLYP community and the ARG. We also have another opportunity to share from UN Women and their youth working group. So I'm going to actually pass it over to one of my colleagues from the UN Women Youth Working Group, Stephanie Sayo. Sayo, I'm never sure how to introduce you, but I'm gonna pass it over. And so the speaking of working in community, the UN Women has put out a call for folks that want to get involved there. So I'm going to put the link in the chat here and let Sayo kind of discuss about what that group does, what it's like to be more involved on that level, gathering recommendations on behalf of youth, and putting those together. So Sayo, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I hope I am audible and I hope you can see me. It's currently around 6:41 p.m. right here in Nairobi, Kenya. I hope you are all having a wonderful afternoon, morning, evening, based on where you're at. So my name is Sayo Stephanie. I use she, her pronouns. I am a lawyer and I also am within the working groups, as Emily has introduced me. And the UN Women Working Group started as mostly through all the different CSWs that have been there, but it was at CSW70 that I was able to really see the inner workings of the group. Earlier on, I had been part of the Beijing Plus 30, which was in the lead up to CSW69. So that culminated into now transitioning to CSW70 work. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made, to be honest, because it really connects us all as young people from all over the world to make meaningful change and have direct access to the UN, directly to our grassroots organizing and movements. And it's also a chance to really bring out what are our priorities as young people, as a collective, without tokenistic representation alone, but purely co-creating together and leading. Thank you, Sandrine. Sandrine is also part of the group. So we had the recommendations call last year, and it was particularly on the priority theme. So for CSW69, just for context, we collected around 16,000 recommendations from young people. But last year, we knew that access to justice as a priority theme was really deeply rooted into youth movements. And it is what we work on, whether you're a community activist, whether you are a feminist in your own right, a community advocate, you do realize that justice is where it all starts and ends, to the road for gender equality. So the call came out, and the call was really trying to gather only your top 3 recommendations, carried over a consultation you might have done already or you're planning to do within that time frame that it was at. I think it was a couple of months, and we were able to gather a lot of input from around 23,000 plus young people and organizations, most of them from the global south. Africa was leading by around 51% plus, and then we had other regions, Asia, of course, but there was also other regions that we really wanted to work with, but we could not get them out there, especially Southeast Asia and also some parts of Europe. But we also got good recommendations from the Americas, especially South America was really, really impactful. North America, we got a couple as well. And we also got a lot from the Oceanic Pacific region, although we'd hope to get more in terms of more diversity, more countries, more than just, let's say, Australia alone, getting more of the indigenous groups and First Nations, of course. It's really speaking about indigenous justice and even traditional practice of justice. I think that was one of the things that were low on the recommendations. But all in all, having to move from 16,000 to 23,000, that was a huge milestone. And it really showed that it's more than just recommendations at this point. This is something that can be turned into into an action plan for direct policy improvements and enhancement in the work that we do in our different communities. So we tried to be more strategic this time round, as opposed to just putting it out there that we're getting recommendations. We wanted to map out every single person or every single group or organization that had come up with a recommendation, and then they automatically became part of the beneficiaries of the program itself. Any other events that we had, especially virtual events, given the visa issues and restrictions that usually bar the Global South from attending CSW, we made sure that every single person or anyone who had taken part in the recommendations was at least given an email on how to engage, especially with our youth forum, which was virtual, and then there was also an in-person youth forum. So we're really trying to also take stock of how many of the people who had taken part in the recommendations process would be in New York. And also, even for those who are not able to, they would still have inputs in other sessions that we usually have all year round. So through this, we were also able to really come up with a high-level priority document, and this was directly into the agreed language. So the process itself was taking stock of everything. There was no right or wrong way of responding and trying to map out priorities for each group, but we also had to put a name on it. So we had to group it into different topics. So justice is very broad, but there was specifics on, let's say, survivor-centered justice, which, by the way, really took the brunt end of most of the recommendations. And it was something that we really noted, that sexual and gender-based violence is really something that is really impacting a lot of communities, whether they're part of the global South or otherwise. And this really led us to now come back to the agreed conclusions over time, whether it was CSW61, CSW65, just to mention a few. And we are able to now fine tune it into UN agreed language and then now present it to the UN as a work that is finished and not necessarily something that we'd pass on to a UN agency to do it for us. So we were able to do it on our own, co-create, of course, working within caucuses. The Young Feminist Caucus really did a lot in trying to pull that together. Sleepless nights, of course, different time zones, but it was all worth it. So when we gathered that, this was tangible documentation that when you present it to any UN agency or even different civil society spaces, this is something that can be taken up the same way people attend conferences and come up with declarations. This was one of the ways that this particular data can be used to really shape and influence change. Some of the highlights during CSW was that the chair of CSW really applauded us during different sessions on the work that we had been able to do. And we also got slots as young people to really speak on the recommendations during informal and formal groups, whether it was parallel events or side events, official side events at the UN headquarters. So this was something that really came up really nicely, and we had some bumps along the way. Most of the people in the working group who had been working tirelessly could not necessarily be able to come to New York, of course, and noting that as young people, there isn't enough grants for us, especially young people from the global South as well. But we made sure that even before going to New York, there were ways that we could input this high-level priority document and recommendations in general and be able to have virtual sessions that really worked towards some of the engagements that really shaped in-person attendance. So, for example, we had a multi-stakeholder hearing, and some of us were invited as young people to really speak on what was the process like and why it matters then, and then how access to justice really is part and parcel of what youth movement is about. So currently, we do have an ongoing call that really we decided to be more strategic this time round, because at the end of the day, when you have something that moved from 16,000 to 23,000, that was just barely what could happen at that moment. But if we start early, i.e., right now, working on CSW71 recommendations, how much could we really pull up? I really think there's a lot of young people out there that really have something to say about what this particular theme of this year is relating to most of the work that they do. And I think SDGs, all in all, are part and parcel of youth movements and the championing of what we do in terms of sustainable development. So right now, the call is more specific. So it does say in the form that we're looking for around 40 young people, individuals or networks who would have to carry out, let's say, a consultation of around 50 to 100 people. And then ultimately that would translate into around 30,000 participants, and input would be more. But we also expect that there's going to be a lot of traction with this link, and there's going to be a lot of people who are going to participate. So the hope is that this is not particularly just the ceiling, it's more of just sort of like rough numbers, but we are going to get a lot more. So this is one of the spaces that really you as a young leader and young professional you really need to step into, because you get to shape what you want to tell the UN based on your own grassroots context. There isn't any need to have an organization that works in intergenerational aspects only for it to be worth it. In fact, we prefer having youth-led and youth-oriented recommendations. And of course, there are organizations that have really helped in trying to get a lot of youth, but they can also participate, but they have to make sure that there's also diversity and that young people are fully represented and not just there to, tick a box. So this is one of the things that will probably be the hardest that we'll get in terms of the numbers. We're going to get way more numbers. We're also going to need way more people to work on the recommendations. So I think it would be nice to just follow up, especially as YLYP, and try and see where maybe there might be a call for some of us to really participate into this, because it also helps with the advocacy and understanding the language that is used at the UN level that maybe as young people we don't necessarily get access to. So all in all, at the moment, we have around 44% of Africa represented. We have 3% of Asia Pacific, but this was just sorry, we have 12% of Asia Pacific, but this was a couple of days ago. And then from Latin America, we also have around 44%. So there are voices that are missing, and particularly maybe having the Oceanic Pacific region as its own specific aspect. And then, of course, Europe, we really need more aspects that we can really look into. So also having diversity in terms of understanding that there is no recommendation that is more graceful than the other. When we talk about minorities and marginalized communities, these are the voices that should be at the front line. And you should not feel that just because you're working on a particular area, you can't necessarily be represented fully. So make sure that you're authentic, make sure that the work really speaks to the community that you work with. And of course, UN Women is really willing to come in as a partner and figure out ways to also resource the actual consultations that are ongoing. This require a lot, maybe would be availability, access, whether it's virtual or even just physical, the safeguarding of it all and ensuring that all voices are represented. And this is not just something that we are asking for you to give your all to, and then for us to just take all that and then slap it somewhere and say, this is what we did. No, every single recommendation is accorded to the person. Nobody takes ownership of your work and what you've been able to do in your community. So that is something that as young people, we also get to have a fresh take on that. And always, after, of course, taking part in the recommendations, there's that open window. We have your contacts. If you'd want to reach out and maybe turn this into a project or something you're looking into, this is something that you can actually create in your community and for it to create impact by the time that we're even attending CSW71. So I'd really love to stop there and share maybe the high-level priority document that was developed last year for you to just go around and really look at some of the ways that the agreed language works, but also for you to also look at the very core of the simplistic ways that really show that, this is a particular problem that is happening in my community, and this can be turned into language that can be at a high level aspect and can be in rooms that you never imagined. So that's it from me. Thank you so much to everyone for listening.
Thank you so much, Sayo, for being here. And I can attest to what Sayo was saying. This is not a group or a community where youth participation is tokenistic. I was blown away when I went in because it is organized and led by youth. So if you have the interest, the time, the ability, please do get involved there. Um, I've put the link in the chat for that interest form, and I am putting it in there again. So please check that out. Again, it's a great way to really see the back end of these recommendation gatherings, and get hands-on in the process. Um, so thank you again, Sayo, for being here. And I'm going to turn it over to Mads now
Yeah.
to wrap up.
Great. Thank you so much. So I unfortunately don't think that we have time for questions, but it looks like a lot of people got questions in the chat and all sorts of things. So for kind of closing remarks, just because of time, we will not have any meetings in July. However, if the ARG has any information or updates on how to get involved, I will be sharing that via our YLYP newsletter and Instagram, and I will also be doing it through the YLYP community. So make sure, if you are not already, you can go to NGOCSW.org and head over to the let's see, get involved section, and then the youth leaders and young professionals. I'm just going to put this link in the chat so that you have it accessible. And sign up for our community link. It is that orange button right at the front of that page, and you will get all of the updates from this summer during our summer break. The next meeting is going to be in August on financing and fundraising. So, a lot of great information there. Our individuals from the steering committee will help put that together. And so we will have great content coming out of that meeting, and we are looking forward to it. As for updates, that's really all I had. Emily, do you have anything to add? No?
No, wishing you all a very safe and pleasant summer. And we look forward to seeing you at our next meeting. The recording of this meeting will be available. Our email address, we'll put it in the chat, YLYP@ngocsw.org. Please reach out there with any questions. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you again for being here.
Ooh, quickly, it's YLYPs with an S,
Ah!
NGOCSW.org. I am just going to put it back in the chat. Don't forget the YLYPs at NGOCSW.org if you do have any questions. I will be active on the email for the time being and throughout the summer. Okay. Thank you so much. You all have a great rest of your day. Have a good weekend, and we hope to see you come August. Thank you.
Take care.